everyone. My name's Kyle, and this is the fourth video installment of my YouTube lecture series talking about interreligious undertones as to why this world exists and what's going on. Today we're going to be talking about what should you do with your life. Now, growing up, you've had guidance counselors, school events where they fill the auditorium with motivational speakers, religious teachers, parents, friends, sports teams, etc. And they all taught you about how to function in society. And today, we're going to talk about how to spend your time. Now, when I went to college and we studied economics in my labor econ class, we had to make these things called work-leisure models, where you basically measured how people spend their time based on work, what you get paid to do, what you do for fun, and the things that you do that are considered non-market activity, which would be cooking, cleaning, stuff that you do because you have to, not because you want to. And today's conversation has nothing to do with any of that. We're going to discuss how to operate the vehicle of life, not where to take it. So the punchline of the rest of this talk is that what should you do with your life? Well, you should do what's appropriate. So when you look at religions that have different setup structures on what you should be doing, when you look at Eastern Asian religions, they have this interconnected concept called Dharma, which exists in Jainism, Buddhism, Taoism, and Hinduism. And Dharma, over the four of those religions, is basically the mechanism that allows everything to work. So it goes on a few levels, but basically it says that there's no effect without a cause, which, if you study Hermeticism, which is a blending of Greek religion and Egyptian religion, which I briefly talked about in the second video, you'll know that there is no effect without a cause and no cause without an effect, is a Hermetic principle. I will, at some point later down this series, get to talking more in depth about Hermeticism, but for the moment, this is a good starting point. Now, with Dharma specifically, if we read the Mahabharata, which is this Hindu epic with, it's either 16 or 18 books, I can't tell you offhand. One of the books specifically is the Bhagavad Gita, which is this song, basically. It kind of runs similar to Psalms if you look at it in the sing-songy aspect. However, it's very much different. It's a conversation between Krishna, who is the godhead in Hinduism, talking to Arjuna, who is this prince. So basically, in that series of books, they have Dharma, which is these events or actions that must be done, kind of in this sense similar to Oedipus. And in the story of Oedipus, it's this man who's told that he's going to grow up to kill his father and sleep with his mother, and he goes out of his way to make sure he doesn't, and as luck would have it, he ends up killing his father and sleeping with his mother. So it's either one of the books right before the Bhagavad Gita or the Bhagavad Gita itself. Arjuna, the prince, is learning how to do archery, and he's told that he's going to be the best archer on the planet. Now, he's studying from this one master, and the master has one other student, and that other student is better at archery than Arjuna. So Arjuna ends up talking with the master, and the master ends up going over to the other student and says, hey, we need to find a way to handicap you to make him a bit better. And the other student instinctively just cuts off their thumb. Now, don't take this as how the world works, because the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita are operating very similar to this on a lot of stories, where you shouldn't look at the exact actions, but look at the principles underlining the actions. So one of the conversations I had heard, I believe it was Ram Dass talking about, was him traveling over to India to meet a spiritual adept who's supposed to know, a lot about Dharma and how the world works. And when they come to meet this, spiritual master, that person's a butcher, which you didn't expect at all from this situation, because, in that religious sense, someone with such a high position and close to God would not, actively kill things. However, after talking to them, the spiritual adept says, I am where I am mystically and metaphysically because, that's my dharma. but I'm also a butcher because it's needed in this village and someone has to. And I can't just be excluded because I'm supposed to be closer to God. If everything is this manifestation of God and love, then me being a butcher is completely okay. So, one of the other ways that we can look at how you should live your life would be the middle path, which is from Buddhism. And the middle path basically says that we're supposed to be avoiding extremes so we don't get stuck with this mental fixation or attachment. And although the middle path should be practiced day to day, if you believe in reincarnation, the middle path needs to be practiced on that level too. So, if you're like me and you believe that you have lived another life in another person through this soul, take a second, pause the video, ask yourself, how many souls do you think are out there if you believe in reincarnation? Because this is the question that brought me to non-duality ultimately. Because I can't believe there's a finite number of souls. Because if there's reincarnation, there has to be less souls than there are people. But how would I be able to know the ultimate number? And to me, what makes the most sense is that everyone is lived through by one soul, ultimately. And it may have changes which show different things. But with this, through the reincarnation process and the middle path being practiced that way, that's why it's okay that not everyone is a vegetarian. Not everyone is an ascetic who's given up the world to live in squalor. And it's okay that not everyone is a monk, because there should be some people deviating left and right, towards the more religious and less religious end to truly get the middle path on this global sense. Now, in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, the people of the world get together to build this tower up to heaven, and God gets very upset. This is called the Tower of Babel, and he takes everyone on the planet that at this point is living in this one area and scatters them around the world, changes all of their languages so they can't communicate with each other. And this was effectively, in a Christian sense, God forcing us all to live the middle path, because we couldn't all only practice one religion. We all had to learn different ones to learn different ways with different levels of complexity, different levels of conservatism, different levels of relaxation. For example, someone that is Islamic or Mormon is going to have a much more structured lifestyle religiously than someone who is, say, agnostic. So, if this world is a manifestation of love, which has been this overarching concept of this YouTube series, then let's think about it. For what we should be doing in life, if we are love, when do things work the easiest for us? Is it when we're happy or when we're sad? It's when you're happy. Because if you're not sitting here nitpicking what's going on, looking for faults, things are going to flow easier, return, and you're going to notice the cycle continue on without a hitch. So, as Alan Watts had said, and Alan Watts is the British philosopher popular in the 1960s through 80s, he said that we shouldn't just be here now, like the Buddha said. We should be here now overwhelmingly. We should be excited and happy to keep the wheel of Dharma in motion, because we should be mindful of the happiness that you spread. And no one's a perfect practitioner of this. I mean, even Jesus wept. He brought sadness and sorrow into the world in that extent. So we shouldn't be thinking that, I have to only be doing this all the time, because to only be bringing good means that there has to be someone out there in this massive reincarnation cycle only doing bad. So don't set yourself up with this idea. Allow things to happen as they are. Because if happiness is forced or false, it won't have contentment, and it's only going to create anxiety about when this high will end, when you're going to stop being happy. So just let things happen and be mindful of what you're spreading. So the answer of what should you be doing with your life is you should be doing whatever feels appropriate. Thank you.